DLC.
Yeah! There it is! When that beat crashes in, you know it's time to begin. And wherever you are, whenever you are, and however you happen to be listening, we're so glad you've chosen to tune in to
DLC.
They're literally this week, but that's okay! We're excited to have you, DLC. Of course, the show all about games in their many forms. DLC, of course, brought to you by our patrons over there at patreon.com/DLC pod. If you are one of our patrons, thank you for making this show possible. You really do make the show possible in a very tangible way. If you are not one of our patrons yet, maybe consider it. You get cool perks, including ad-free episodes, a video version of the show, the complete archive of all the video versions we've done, and an entire bonus show called Paid DLC, where Christian and I muse on a whole range of topics, and we've gotten a lot of really awesome feedback about that show. So check it out, patreon.com/DLC pod. For DLC, of course, the show all about games in their many forms. Games played on desktops, laptops, and consoles. Also, games that involve dice, luck, and cardboard. I'm your host, Jeff Canada. That's spelled with 2 N's and 1 T. And I'm joined, as always, by my friend, /co-host, /nemesis. The guy who's wearing the same shirt I am. Because my wife gave it to him. Mr. Christian Spicer. Hello, Christian.
Choo choo, we are on the Gray Shirt Express. It is hype train time. Everybody's wearing the gray t-shirt. Yes, you're for people who don't know, your wife is kind of in that business. So this isn't Jeff's shirt. It is a shirt that your wife had access to. It's not like Jeff doesn't wear this one anymore. Here you go. You can have it.
That is a funny interpretation of what I said, though.
Yeah.
My
The
wife's
same
like,
shirt as me,
hey,
'cause-
Christian, you want Jeff's old gray t-shirt? He clearly has more than one of them. Amazing.
Yeah.
We have a strange friendship, Christian and I. My wife gives him clothes. It's weird.
I'm over. Jeff's like, you need to leave. And I'm like, I don't have a shirt. And your wife's like, here. And then my kids are like, I don't have pants. And then your kid's like, here. It's just, it works. It all balances out, you know?
Amazing. Well, we're not here to talk about apparel, although we could. We're here to talk about video games, and we got lots to get into this week, including some really interesting new releases, some juicy news. You know that DLC always stands for your downloadable Kanata and your downloadable Christian, but this week we have one of our favorite guests back with us. When he's here, DLC stands for Destiny's longtime champion, because it seems like he's always talking about Destiny when he's here, but he is our go-to guy. And he even has his own theme song. Hit it.
Who's that coming on the podcast today?
Taormina.
They must be recording on a holiday.
Because it's Taormina.
Who's gonna talk about the games that they don't really want to play?
Taormina.
He's dependable, dimensional, and so sincere. That's why we want to hear his games review.
Taormina.
Taormina.
We just got to have you on more often, Anthony, just to hear the theme song. Sean.
I do enjoy the theme song.
Yes. It's too rare that we get to listen to that. And of course, that is our stalwart Sean Madigan, who has graced us with so many awesome theme songs and bumpers along the way. And Anthony gets his own. But Anthony, thank you for being here. It's been too long. How are you?
I'm great. I just got back from this week. Took the 4-year-old to Disneyland. First time at Disneyland.
Wow, that's cool. How was it?
Yeah, it was great. Very busy, busier than I would have liked, but
Yeah.
we booked out 3 days. We, took the stimulus checks ahead of time and we said, we're going to do Disneyland when we feel comfortable. We're going to do it big. And we did it big. And it was a ton of fun.
What was the 4-year-old's favorite ride?
Teacups.
Wow.
So my favorite ride after Haunted Mansion is Teacups because I love to just spin in a circle.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of just getting dizzy, and so it brought a little tear to my eye that he loved the
Aw.
teacups, mostly because his mom would say, I don't like this. It's making me, and then so he thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's my nightmare is that my kids want to ride the teacups because I will puke.
Yeah, he was very much get off the ride. Let's do it again. But he's a kid, so you have to do it. When I say it, my wife just goes, no.
Yeah, I love most rides. The spinny, spin rides, not my jam. I get dizzy easy.
I do think two things change as you get older. And one is that like dizziness, susceptibility, I think that changes. And also I'm almost certain that thermal regulation changes, where like my kids, ocean, sploosh, dive in, pool, sploosh, dive in, me, toe in, no, and like getting up to the belly button, like get out of here. It's like taking me an hour and it's full of me going, yeah,
you're so right. It'll be 58 degrees and we go to my dad's house and my kids are like, can we be in the pool? We'll be in there all day. Don't let us. They'll be shivering in the pool. Please don't make us get out. Like, what is
the
wrong
interesting
with you?
thing about Disneyland is that, we ride them as adults. And I don't know if you guys, when you rode them pre-kids, you rode any of like the more kiddie rides, but you ride them and you don't think anything of them. You're like, Haunted Mansion, I'm in the elevator. The room is not stretching, blah, blah, blah. Then you take a kid and you're like, oh man, this stuff, like the Star Wars Rise of the Resistance ride, it sets up this whole idea of you're like boarded or you're captured by the bad guys. And he's looking at me, he's like, Daddy, is this pretend? Is this pretend? I'm like, it's pretend. But then you start to realize like Disney does a great job of creating this world that normally I just take for granted. I just, get me on the ride. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Our imaginations are sadly atrophied at this age.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that is helpful with imagination and keeping it kid-like is playing video games. So let's jump in and start the show the way we always do with Story of the Week.
Story of the week, it's the story of the week. Story of the week, it's the story of the week.
Story of the Week is the part of the show where we make our case for the most important stories that happen in the world of games this week. You can always submit stories for our consideration by sending us an email to dlcfeedback@gmail.com. We love hearing from you for any reason. If you'd like to give us a comment about the show, a question, even your own reviews of video games, we love hearing from you right there at dlcfeedback@gmail.com. We also love you participating in our communities. We have a thriving Discord community at 5x5DLC on Discord and a cool subreddit you can find at 5x5dlc.reddit.com. We urge you to take part in those fun communities. Great folks hanging out, talking games and all kinds of stuff. But Anthony, you are our guest. So you get first pick of stories. What would you consider to be your story of the week?
So I'm going to go a little off book of the Google Doc. I wasn't sure. I asked Christian. Christian didn't respond to my text. I don't think he talked about it. I don't think it happened. It happened in between. But it's the Xbox Bethesda conference announcing that it's happening.
It's happening. Yeah, no E3, but that's
E3.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically when E3 would have been, I think.
Right. Clearly, Microsoft/Xbox has not officially participated in E3 for several years now, but they had that, at the same time, we're kind of coordinating so that our stuff doesn't overlap with other people's stuff. And we're right there next door. And, it sort of was E3, but not. And you got to figure it has been in the works for much longer than the E3 announcement that things weren't happening at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Were you surprised to see that this is still going off at that time, June, 12th or something?
Yeah, I kind of, just because I guess maybe the pandemic had given me a sense that they didn't really care about the timing because PlayStation's in 2020 was much later, obviously. So was Xbox's. And then I think they were both much later than normal. But this just feels like, oh, well, we're just kind of doing E3 without E3.
Yeah.
And I think that this press conference is very exciting just because of the fact that I mean, I think this is going to be the biggest press conference of the year. I think.
Well, I've hung out with you at numerous Xbox press conferences
Yes.
and numerous Bethesda press conferences, each of which is a full event. And to see them smashed together for the first
Yeah.
time, in a universe where there's actually these kinds of events again.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
It does in a way make me sad because yes, you and I, we would bond over the Bethesda press conferences. Those were always the goofy, the carnival,
Yes.
and the Christian doesn't want to go, and then Blink 182 plays only the hits, and we got a sprinkles cupcakes in an In-N-Out truck. But now it's combined. So now Microsoft is usually like the least ostentatious as far as their press conferences, but I think just in terms of sheer games that we know about, there are so many things that I assume we'll see gameplay for, from Fable to Avowed to obviously Starfield is the big one, but things that we just have no sense of.
Yeah, the logo that they kind of used as the announcement for this thing, clearly pointing towards Starfield being a major part or the centerpiece of the conference, which has me excited. I mean, obviously, if it's coming out in November, this is the time to do a real significant unveiling of gameplay and details. So yes, I mean, as somebody who loves those kinds of games and has been chomping at the bit to see more Starfield stuff, I'm excited. But Anthony, do you think that there's a chance that, like we said, the Xbox conference was usually this machine gun drinking from the fire hose of trailer. And then Bethesda, had its own dozen or so trailers. Do you think, just by virtue of the fact that it's going to be combined and they're probably not going to add another hour to the thing, that there'll be a lot of games on the cutting room floor? Or what do you expect? Do you think it'll feel over full?
Yeah, it could. I think if you want to satisfy the people, you have to do a deep dive into Starfield. So I think that will take up a big chunk. But I think you could rattle off a lot. We don't really know. They bought Bethesda, and we don't really know what all the Bethesda studios are working on. We only know Starfield. We don't know is another Wolfenstein in the cards. What?
Right.
Well, we know Redfall.
Yeah. That's
and
true.
like a little bit, and then Indiana Jones, which I don't know if we'll see. They've talked about some stuff, but it'll be very interesting.
But I mean, they bought them for a reason, so they could say like, "Look, we bought you, and we're going to give you the money to do this and do that and do this, and just make those announcements." Yeah, I'm excited to just hear about new games.
Christian, do you think? I mean, obviously, we've joked about how our E3 hype train bumper is sailing off into the final tunnel, never to be heard from again. Where is E3 well and truly dead? And of course, we have Keighley saying, "Hey, I'm swooping in and I'm going to do the summer of games," and there'll still be a big hoopla around video games in that period. But are you excited that Microsoft has put their flag in the sand and said, "Hey, we're doing something that is basically a traditional E3 press conference at the traditional E3 time"?
I like a big press conference, and I like a big press conference that isn't. I like the big press conference. I like the big press conference that hits a bunch of games and has that excitement feeling. The little 20-minute things on a Wednesday, and then another one on a Thursday, and then another one 3 weeks from now, like that stuff I kind of lose in the black hole that is time. So I like that this feels important in a big way versus some of the other ones that come out and it's like, oh cool, I will definitely read about them, but I'm not putting it on my calendar, making popcorn and like this is going to be an event. And I feel like this one is. So I like that.
This feels like popcorn time.
Yes. Yeah. I'm curious if the summer lull in game releases, if that continues to be a thing that is a misnomer, as the lull goes away and we never really have lulls anymore, and it's just fire hose of 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 releases all year. If this conference maybe moves, like where is the best time for these types of conferences to exist in terms of generating maximum hype for the back half slate of games and into the future. And I think summer kind of works because it's that halfway point. But I
Yeah.
wonder if like a back to school, like August, September timeframe hits hard because it's like your summer break's over. People are kind of getting back to home. I know this is talking about the before times, but like people are back home. You're watching things. You've settled down. You're not on trips. You're doing back to school shopping for other things. If they can kind of use that as a shopping experience too, where it's we've sent out these bundles like Apple used to, they didn't have a conference around it, but they would do press events around their back to school offerings and discounts and this, that, and the other. And I haven't seen games really tap into that. And I think they could, and I think that could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes you'll see stuff at E3 that is coming out in September, though. So it's that holiday window kept creeping up early and earlier. So
That is true.
maybe
4th
it's
of
too
July
late.
is everybody's favorite holiday. We celebrate it all year. Right after Halloween, we go straight into 4th of July season.
That's right. Yeah, I mean,
Sony's-
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that Sony has sort of set up this precedent of, we are not going to show you something unless it's pretty close and we have gameplay to show. And Microsoft and Bethesda, to a certain extent, have said, no, we'll show you a logo. We'll tell you we're making a game. Elder Scrolls 6 is coming.
Yeah.
And who knows when. So, I mean, that alone just, kind of builds the excitement. You have a general sense of what to look forward to. And I prefer games to be shown and then released, I do like knowing what's on the horizon.
Yeah. Well, to show you
Forza is on the horizon. I mean,
well, Aloy is on the horizon.
Oh, yeah, good point.
You were right, Anthony, that this wasn't in our rundown of news stories this week. But to show you how much I was excited about it, I did text Christian the link as soon as I read it, and I was like, squee exclamation points guy of like, it's happening. It's a fun thing. It's going to be a fun thing to cover. So yeah, I'm on that page too. It's exciting.
You and I, we are still in the conference excitement. Christian more cynical.
Well, that's
no. I'm excited for this. I would watch it from home like I would every other year.
Home. You and I, you popped my conference cherry. You and I, we saw a conference together, my first conference, and I was like, "You want to keep doing that?" And you were like, "Nah, I'm good." Jeff was like, I'm going to drive 2 hours in LA traffic. I don't care. Just so I can have a turkey leg and see some Doom.
And I was like, I could take the train and be there really soon, but I'm good. But I love that they make it available for me to do that. And I love that they've made it available now for everybody. Yes, there's something special about being in the room, but
it's mostly the turkey legs, Christian.
It's mostly and I'm a vegetarian, so that explains so much of it,
Yeah, it was about the food for me, mostly 90% about the food.
It was good food. It was
good food. It's pretty. If you love tiny little sliders, or maybe a pretzel, you're in, baby. All right, Christian Spicer, what is your story of the week?
So there are two that I think are super interesting, and one transitions really nicely from the one that Anthony was just talking about, and when you show games and how you release them and talk about them. So I'm not going to pick that one. I'm going to go with the one that doesn't transition as nicely from the thing we were just talking about.
Because you're
and
a
I'm
pro.
going to talk. Thank you. And I'm going to talk about the idea / rumor / leaked reports as we get closer to the plow. The PS Plow clearing the streets for all of us, finally, so we can drive year round when the PS Plow merges these two platforms together. The idea that Sony is going to require limited time game trials for PlayStation titles that are MSRP priced $34 and above. And so the idea is that if it is a approaching AAA budget style game, you need to have a limited time demo available for that game. It does not need to come out at launch. It doesn't need to be available at the game's launch. I think it's like a 3-month window for these demos to be out. And I think it's fascinating because I think when we talked about PlayStation Plus, all the different tiers, one of the things mentioned was, game demos. And that wasn't a thing that existed really. EA had their 10-hour, it wasn't a demo. You'd get 10 hours of playtime for some games, and some games you'd get early access through EA Play and stuff like that. But this idea of actually getting demos or limited time slices of games is something that, while I feel for the developers in terms of the work it might create, I think is really cool. I'm a little bummed that it seems to be locked behind a paywall in terms of a PlayStation Plus style perk, but I love demos. I love demos on old Xbox Live Arcade where every game had to have a demo. I think it does a lot to sell a game, when done well. I talked about how I think this recent Kirby demo doesn't show the game as good as it can, but there are so many games these days, and so many games are expensive that if you're trying to decide where to spend your money, yes, you can listen to podcasts. There's a multitude of ways you can get information about games, but being able to spend a little bit of time with it and be like, wow, Ghost of Tsushima's combat is awesome. I'm going to go buy that game. I'd hope that leads to attach rate for folks picking up games. I'm excited for it.
It is interesting. I do, like you, recall those.
Did you hear that? Jeff just said he likes me. Everybody heard it. He said it. That was a complete thought. He said, I do like you.
A clear comma there.
I do like you, period. Thank you, Jeff. That means a lot. Wearing your old shirt, that means a lot to me.
I do smell like you because we're wearing the same shirt. Like you, I do recall the days, those early days of Xbox Live Arcade where every single game was required to have a demo, and it was pretty rad. It was pretty rad to be able to just download demo after demo and try out games and see what you like, and that went away relatively soon. But I think the one thing, so I'm saying that I'm on your page as far as thinking this is a pretty nifty idea. It is tied to the PlayStation Plus premium level, which is the highest tier of PlayStation Plus. So that's a bit of a bummer. So it's like, well, you get to try games for free, except it's not free at all. But the weird part of the story that you left out is that evidently this is a report. So this is not, there's no kind of official word on it.
This isn't a PlayStation blog post about
exactly.
This is kind of leaked information ahead of the full reveal. Yeah.
But according to this report, the developers weren't officially informed of this. It was just a update in the EULA, basically, on Sony's developer portal, which seems like a weird way to impose this on developers. And I'm so curious if this is going to cause irritation or frustration or difficulty with a bunch of third-party developers that are like, oh, we didn't have a demo built into our roadmap,
Will it be a full game download that somehow they then hack a timer into, right? It's like, here's the demo, you can play for 3 hours, whatever it is.
Yeah. So like you said, get developers given 3 months of post-release on the PlayStation Store to provide a timed trial for PlayStation Plus premium subscribers, and it must remain available to users for a year. And it says, should a studio wish to create a custom demo for a tier, Sony is open to that option, but such demos will need to be approved on a case-by-case basis. So, Anthony, what's your take on this? Do you think this is going to cause more trouble than it's worth, or do you think this is a net win for gamers who want to subscribe at that tier?
I don't know. It's kind of weird because for us, at least, I know you guys say, you like demos, but I think, in what we do, if we're going to try a game, there are ways to try games. And so I guess I feel like I'm somewhat out of touch in terms of who really likes demos anymore.
I do. This guy right here.
Okay.
Right here. Me. I wish Sifu had a demo. I wish a lot of games have demos. I think they could go a long way and and getting
but
people to pick
selling.
them up.
But if you played the seafood demo, would you have then said I want to play the game, or then said this isn't for me?
I don't know. I still haven't played the game, so
Okay. Well, yeah,
Waiting for the demo.
He's waiting for the demo. I don't know. I don't know how many people are out there. I think from the perspective of the developer, and if it does cause, trouble, because we already are dealing with situations of crunch and trying to get to a healthier workplace, I don't really want to see that. I know that there's already discussions that happen as far as E3 demos when E3 was a thing and E3 demos were a thing, and these reports would come out that you had to work on for 6 months just on a demo that wasn't even a part of the game. It was its own thing. So hopefully there's a kind of elegant way that they can just incorporate a demo into what they're already doing, but it seems like that would still present a challenge.
Another really interesting wrinkle here is that this new requirement is not retroactive. So it doesn't mean every game on the PlayStation Store is going to have a demo magically overnight. It just means new releases. And it also does not apply to VR titles, which is interesting. I don't know why that would be, but it is the case.
Yeah, to me, I feel like the evolution of the demo is what Game Pass offers. The evolution of the demo is you can play the game. It's available. Try it. There's no harm, no foul in trying it. And I think that leads to more people playing. I would kind of be surprised if the introduction of all of these demos suddenly led to people saying, oh, you know what? Because I feel like everybody's very well informed. They watch streams, they do this, they do that. Feel like you have a good sense of whether or not you'll like a game.
That's a really excellent point about Game Pass, though, because here is PlayStation Plus Premium trying to compete in some way. We've talked at length on the show about how these services are kind of not really parallel. They're not really analogous to one another. Sony seems to be doing something a little different, maybe a little closer to what Nintendo's doing. Yeah, and Microsoft's kind of doing its own thing, but still, if you're asking for basically the same kind of money a month, then I'm imagining a lot of gamers are weighing those options in their head. And if you're looking at one where it's like, hey, for this monthly fee, you get game demos that you can then go buy the game, and the other is for this monthly fee, you get this smorgasbord of just all full games.
Yeah,
it seems less cool when you phrase it that way.
Yeah, to me, I think that there are maybe a handful of games where I would say, okay, yeah, I'd sample that and see if I like it. But in most cases, yeah, I feel like I have a good sense of whether or not I would enjoy a game to begin with, and being able to sample it and confirm it usually will confirm, like it's like a confirmation bias type of thing where, I love this. But I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are excited about demos, and so I don't want to yuck their yum.
I think it's cool for sure for that you get to try a game before you buy a game. I do wonder if there will be some games that won't be able to come out on PlayStation at launch. I mean, it's weird because
that's where I wonder if it's all developers or just Sony. It says it's some developers, so I feel like maybe it's just internal developer. I don't know if they walk over to CD Projekt Red and require it from them again, because we're talking about a rumor of a leak and of a thing that very much is maybe still in flux. But
if you're a PlayStation Plus premium subscriber, are you really not gonna play God of War Ragnarok? Do you really need to play a demo? Like, what's gonna convince Yeah, I feel like you're in that, and it will be an interesting thing, because what if Sony says, hey, we convinced this company to make a demo, and then Microsoft says, well, we have the whole game over here on Game Pass.
Yeah. No, yeah. And I think it's an interesting thing. The $34 price point is such an odd number, and B, it kind of means, well, okay, so these smaller indie developers that maybe don't have the budget to devote to that are excluded because their games are probably going to be priced lower as well. So that's kind of a cool carve out for them to not have to worry about it. But also, I feel like those are the games that would benefit most from a demo. Yeah. Because you're right. Nobody's going to be like, do I want that God of War Ragnarok? it is a little weird.
Yeah, I was gonna say the demos, like Tunic, like I really liked a bunch of the Xbox demos and Steam. You know, Jeff, we've had whole episodes of this show talking about the Steam Summer Demo Fest or whatever they
You're
call
right.
it.
You're right.
It is a lot of indies usually and littler games. I've come away with a lot of games on my wish list that I ended up purchasing, and then some came to Game Pass I didn't need to purchase. I wonder, Anthony, I think you made an interesting point too. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think you hinted at this idea also, and I hadn't thought of it. It's I guess, the other side of there are so many games coin, where I wonder for how many folks I'm making up a number here, a 3-hour demo of a game is enough of that game because there's so
Just
many other
scratches that
games.
itch. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't buy it because you're like, I played it. No,
Yeah,
you didn't. You played 3 hours.
You're
Well,
right.
that's all most people play anyway.
I think there are plenty of games like it depends on what they offer, but if it's one of those things like we're saying where the developers are just saying, okay, well, we'll just turn on a timer and we'll give them 3 hours. And then the guy plays Sifu and is a master and gets like 3/4 of the way through the game in 3 hours. And it's like, well, I don't really want to pay full price now. Yeah, I'm curious how it'll all work out. It doesn't really seem like it adds value to PlayStation Plus Premium to me, but I know that there will be people where they will say, yeah, I love demos and I'm very excited about them.
Yeah.
I guess they'd have to more carefully and clearly outline what the plan is and what it's going to offer.
Well, for how
Yes.
soon this is to launching, I think they need to do that for the whole thing. We don't even know the games on it yet, and it's apparently coming very soon. So,
well, I think the games that we know are the games. There's like 7 of them or something, but
Yeah, we know that there's been a report on some of the retro games. It's like, do you like Worms? You like the Worms franchise? You'll have several Worms retro games to play. Yeah,
I do like that franchise.
People love that franchise, but I think Tekken 2 is on there as well.
Yeah, there's like leaks of like old games showing up on the back end of the store.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know. I don't know when we get the full press release with all of the list of games. Like this to me feels like a nice extra bullet point to have on that most expensive tier when they're kind of framing it out and you're like, oh, look at all this stuff it offers. But I think the biggest question mark is to devs and what it does and what it creates. And if it's a impediment and a headache more than anything else, I think you could see some pushback.
Well, we will see. And I think a lot will be revealed when it's officially announced by Sony. You guys have left me some really interesting stories of the week, and I am very torn. But I kind of feel like, there's some weeks where most weeks, I'll be honest, where my story of the week is what I love the most and what I want to talk about. It's my story of the week. But then there's other weeks where I feel like, well, I kind of got to bring up the biggest story of the week. And I feel like the biggest story this week is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 has been confirmed. It's been long rumored. A lot of folks kind of knew Infinity Ward's next iteration of the Call of Duty franchise was going to be Modern Warfare 2. And here we are with a confirmation, a logo. Sick logo, guys. If you have fans of logos.
I am a fan of logos. I'm not going to lie. I am a big fan of logos.
What do you think of this
also
logo?
just discovered Migos.
I was 3 feet from Quavo 2 days ago. So I know Migos. I was hanging out with Quavo. But and I'm not joking. That's a true story. So what do you think of the logo, Christian? Call of Duty
I
Modern
don't need to
Warfare 2?
comment on this logo or this game.
Oh, okay. So you're not going to talk about the story.
Correct. Sorry.
Well, Anthony, you're the one who I was most interested to hear about it anyway, because you are a shooter fan. I think you'll be probably playing this game. Weird that it's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which is a sequel to the 2019 Modern Warfare, not a remake of 2009's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Yes,
which is the
we're doing this again.
Title.
We're doing this again.
Yes.
We couldn't have just put a subtitle and then I don't know, Under Siege or something.
Yeah.
Modern Warfare 2, Electric Boogaloo. I'll take anything.
Still modern after all these years.
It's weird for a lot of reasons. I think the number one reason is all those rumors and reports that this is the last one before they kind of do this dramatic shift in development cadence and the cycles, and maybe we don't get one every year. So yeah, there's that element hanging over it. It's also, it feels like Call of Duty obviously has a lot of lost interest just because people weren't a big fan of the last few games. I think Modern Warfare was pretty popular, but it seems like just in general the franchise is on a downward trend. So I don't really know how to feel about it. I'm most likely going to play it just to say I've played it, but I think what they're doing with the just Modern Warfare 2 is very silly, and it makes no sense. But
well, nobody remembers as far back as 2009. So
No.
how could anyone remember that far in the past? So it makes sense to me, you know.
well,
but
no one remembers anything.
The worst thing they do is that they're like Modern Warfare, but they're like, okay, it's Modern Warfare, it's just a different one, and they're like, oh, also Captain Price is in it, and you're like, wait. Is this Modern Warfare? And they're like, no, it's not. And then at the end of Modern Warfare, spoilers, they're like, hey, here's Soap, the main character of Modern Warfare. And you're like, wait. So is Modern Warfare 1 technically Modern Warfare 0.5? And so now Modern Warfare 2 is basically just going to be a remake of Modern Warfare 1, 2009. Like, if I see Ghost, if you show me Ghost, the guy with the mask that everyone knows, I'm, it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Yeah. It's confusing, but I suppose it doesn't really matter that much. They're saying, it's the most advanced experience in franchise history, built from the ground up, groundbreaking innovations, lots of quotes. What do you expect from the game, Anthony? Do you think this is going to be a departure? I mean, it's Infinity Ward again, right? It's
yeah.
I think they tend to push the envelope, or at least they have in the past. Do you expect it to have features or any kind of revamp that fundamentally pushes the franchise into new places?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, they really haven't. I thought the first Modern Warfare, or Modern Warfare again, was fine. It had like some interesting. There was the where you're raiding the building and you're using the night vision. I thought that was a interesting kind of way to get away from the more bombastic elements of Call of Duty, but I think at the end of the day, it was still somewhat familiar, and it still hit a lot of the same notes. It looked nice. I think Vanguard and Black Ops 4, I think 4 or 5, whatever, those ones, they also looked nice. So I feel like if they're going to do this as the last one and then kind of take stock of what they have, I don't expect too much in the way of significant innovation. I feel like all that innovation will be going towards the think tanks of how do we save Call of Duty, or how do we rejuvenate Call of Duty under Xbox.
Yeah. I think that probably is an accurate assessment of the situation, in the sense that this will be a summation and the next thing will be a new step forward, if in fact that's the way to go. But the other way to interpret it is, well, if this one is going to be the last one for a couple of years, then it's got to have legs that are going to sustain for a couple of years, and maybe there are hooks in it, or at least monetization in it.
Yeah.
That some sort of subscription is a possibility, or some sort of other way that the game can sustain for 2 or 3 years, if that's what they intend to do.
Yeah, I think the expectation is that it's going to incorporate Warzone 2, and then that'll just kind of be their thing for the time being.
Right.
But we've heard some things about Warzone 2, like not incorporating your microtransactions or the things you've purchased from Warzone 1, which I don't know. The second they start talking about Warzone 2, I think they're just going to keep digging deeper and deeper. I know a lot of people will probably play it. It'll be very exciting. It'll be free, so it'll be able to compete. But for as much as Warzone 1 was sort of this big shift in terms of battle royale games. Everything they had done since then, I think, has really, pushed people away. People are now playing Fortnite's no build mode, and people are playing Apex Legends again, and not really playing Warzone as much as they were, because they changed the map, or they changed, specific things to meet the new game. So at the very least, with going back to Modern Warfare, the franchise, the hope is Warzone will get back to what people really liked about Warzone originally.
Mhm.
But yeah, all their choices to kind of be that stopgap might result in stuff like you're talking about, where they're microtransactioning everything, and
Mhm.
there's loot boxes and all that stuff. So we'll see. But
We will.
I think
see.
that will be the big thing that pushes the franchise forward towards the next game.
Well, yes,
I
and-
will
and-
say this: shareholders overwhelmingly approved Microsoft's acquisition. Activision shareholders overwhelmed.
98%.
And then
98% of the vote.
what is it? Berkshire Hathaway took a big stake in Activision recently, as well, as the market wasn't seeming to reflect the acquisition happening. Whereas whatever the $95 share price that Microsoft has offered, Activision was still trading well below that. And the speculation there is the idea that maybe DOJ will reject this or block this, because you think if it's a surefire thing that it's going to go through, and it's trading at 73, and by the end of the year it's going to go to 95, that's some sure money, and people weren't doing it. But then it seems like Buffett's firm did it and took a fairly large stake. So it does seem, I would assume, it seems like this thing is going to go through. And then, to me, Anthony, you kind of hinted at it, that to me is the next big interesting thing for Activision, is what does that refresh? Are they going to get Steph Curry to do the Subway refresh, rebrand, all new commercials for what Activision is and how things change? Because it looks like that thing's going forward.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to 2025's rebooted Call of Duty game entitled Modern Warfare.
It's going to be called Historical Warfare by then, but it will just be Modern Warfare.
Let me just sell you on this. Star Trek crossover called Modern Warfare.
There you go, Modern Warfare.
Yep, boom.
It's a hairstyling sim.
So they can use the same name, they can say it right, but then when people are like, "Wait, is this Modern Warfare?" and they're like, "Yeah, exactly." Like, wait, what are you saying? Are you saying
Dorn is?
Are you saying warfare, or are you saying warfare? Exactly. Exactly.
Does Worf even have? Yeah, Worf has hair. Okay, I thought maybe Worf it was on the side.
How dare you?
Classic.
How dare you? Just because the man has a pronounced forehead. Yeah. So Klingons have 5 heads. It doesn't mean they don't have very stylish hairdos, Christian.
Make the game. Make the game.
I am curious about the most advanced experience in franchise history. I know that's just marketing speak, but the question is raised: like, are these games being built for new gen hardware now? Are we into finally? Because I feel like a franchise as big as this is going to come out on everything, including last gen. But are we going to see real? The new gen versions really take advantage of what the stuff can do at this point, because I think it will be coming out alongside stuff that does. We got word this week that, or at least rumor from friend of the show Jeff Grubb, that Jedi Fallen Order 2, or whatever it's going to be called, will only be a new gen title. So I think, and I think as Unreal Engine 5 is now out, and we're going to see these games use Unreal Engine 5 in the next year. 6 months to a year, we're still going to start seeing more games that are just new gen only. And I think they're going to start actually showing us what these boxes that we've had in our houses for 2 years can actually do. So it'll be interesting to see how big multi-platform releases like that reflect that. So, all right. Well, that's the news. That's fit to print. I do need to thank our sponsor, which is HelloFresh. Truly one of my favorite sponsors. Why? Because I use it. I subscribe. I'm a paying subscriber to HelloFresh, have been for many, many years. And that is because HelloFresh has removed the pain points from the experience of cooking. I don't have to go to the grocery store anymore. More kinds of recipes, more variety in my menu. I get to cook for my family, give them home cooked meals. It gives me such joy because HelloFresh delivers pre-portioned ingredients right to my door. I don't have to go to the store. I don't have to buy a bunch of stuff that I'm only going to use one time, and then it's just going to go bad in my refrigerator over time because I only used it that one time. Pre-portioned. And that includes farm fresh produce that arrives within a week. So I've got that convenience without having to skimp on the quality. And I can customize my dishes now with HelloFresh as well. It's so awesome. You get on that app, you order through the app. I love doing it. I pick out the meals ahead of time. You can easily change your delivery day, your food preferences, the plan size if you want to have more food or less food, or even skip a week whenever it's convenient for you, whenever you need to. It's so great. And HelloFresh is 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal of the same quality. And you can save on average of over $65 per month when you order on HelloFresh instead of grocery shopping. That's money back in your pocket. I'm telling you, I have done this for years. I am I'm a subscriber, and I truly believe it has added to my life. It has made my life better. It can for yours as well. Go to HelloFresh.com/DLC16 and use code DLC16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com/DLC16 and use that code DLC16. You'll get up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. It's HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. All right. Let's talk about the games that we have been playing in a segment we call the playlist.
Ooh, what you playing this week? Tell us. Ooh, what you playing this week? Tell us on the playlist.
All right. It's time to talk about the games.
What you playing this week? Tell us.
Oh, wait. That's the only one that does that. It's the only one that loops. And it gets me every time. Every single time. Anthony Taormina, you're always playing tons of stuff. Reporting on it over there at GameRant.com. What you been playing this week?
Well, we want to dive right into Rogue Legacy 2, or we want to? I played a lot of stuff
to
this
talk
week.
about it. I've been
Let's talk
playing
about it.
I've been playing it like a madman. It was wild. You know, I bought that game in early access evidently 2 years ago because it was news to me when I looked on my Steam list. It was like last played 2020. I was like, oh, wow, that's been a while. And I talked about it on this show at that time when it was first released in early access. I was like, you know, I adored the first Rogue Legacy. It was my game of the year it came out. And the early access hit, and I was so excited. I jumped in day one, and it really wasn't a finished game. There was just no content there.
Really? Okay.
And so I just kind of, I played it for 6 hours or something, and then it kind of was like, I need to set this aside and wait until there's more stuff. And there were tons of updates, and I just ignored every one of them. And here we are at 1.0, the official release of Rogue Legacy 2. So I hadn't touched it in 2 years. But had you played any of the early access stuff of Rogue Legacy 2?
I had not. No. I what happened to you is why I don't play early access games.
Right,
I think.
right.
I mean, there's a variety of reasons, but yeah, it's. I know that I'm going to enjoy it, or like same thing with betas or trials or demos. Playing Elden Ring, and they're saying, "You want to play Elden Ring?" I'm like, well, no, I want to play real Elden Ring. I'm gonna play Elden Ring. So yes, I was definitely gonna play Rogue Legacy 2. Like you, I really, really enjoyed the first one. And so when it finally entered 1.0, I was very excited to jump in, and it's an exceptional game. It is that game still, but it is so much better in every way, I think.
I think their marketing, I read a marketing line from them that I thought was so perfect. It said, imagine Rogue Legacy mixed with a sequel.
I mean, yeah, it's not, you're not wrong. You know, it's one of those things where every detail that you could tell to somebody who played the first one, they would go, "Oh yeah, that was in the first game." And you say, "Yeah, but there's more."
Yeah.
I think the answer is there's more, or it's better, or it's more refined, or it's modernized, or it stole from these other games. From the movement feels a little more fluid to the upgrading systems, which is like a fun little castle where you put your gold into different things instead of the manor.
And I've heard there are perma unlocks that are
Yes.
different. Like that's the big change that I'm waiting to play this for a Steam Deck, which should be here soon. But I've heard that, to me, that's very enticing, and that changes the game. Maybe it doesn't. I'm curious your all's take. Is that a fundamental change, or is it just
it just makes it more like a Metroidvania, basically.
Yeah.
So you find the
go
thing.
on?
you find the thing that lets you dash in the air. But if you don't find that thing, you need to find that thing. At some point in the run, you need to find that thing, or else you can't progress.
Interesting.
Yeah, there are areas locked behind certain abilities to do things, and you have to find those abilities. You'll find the area much earlier than you find the thing, and it'll be like, you need the echo boots to get past here. And if you find the echo boots once, all your characters forever, your legacy continues to have them. So
I love
yes,
that.
it is perma unlocks. And I think, Christian, I don't want to jinx anything here because I don't remember you really loving the first one.
The
I
first
think
one was honestly, the art style and the movement just felt a little for me, coming off of whatever I was coming off at the time.
Okay.
I think you're going to love this one. I do. I think there's much more emphasis on platforming in the style that you really like, with Celeste and Dead Cells. And like, knowing how much you love those two games, I think this one is much closer to those games than the first one was. I mean, it had platforming stuff, but now there's this spin kick thing where you can, it's almost like Ori, the way you can attack and it'll let you keep jumping.
Yeah.
And there is some intense platforming in Rogue Legacy 2. Getting the echo boots, which I just mentioned, something I just recently did, and the process of getting those, I had sweaty palms because you get there's this new feature in Rogue Legacy 2 where you'll find these relics and they like suck you into another dimension, which is like a self-contained series of challenges. And if you complete the challenges, you earn the relic, and they are those permanent unlocks. But the challenges can be really crazy, and it's not just one screen of challenge or stage of challenges. It's like a multi-stage progression that basically teaches you a new skill set. But it is full on Celeste or Ori or any of those like intense platforming style. Do it over and over again.
Are they randomized, or do you think when I get to keep using your example, the echo boots, it'll be because I'm sucked into that portal, everybody kind of plays that same progression to get them?
It is the same.
Okay.
So
That's exciting. I
without
love
like
that
giving
stuff.
too much away, but like when you enter the area where you need the echo boots, it's the same for everybody. The procedural generation doesn't start until you get the echo boots and go into the level.
Well,
But
and the way that Rogue Legacy, I'm assuming 2 works because 1 worked this way, is that the levels themselves aren't actually procedurally generated. Like in like the setting of the levels isn't procedurally generated. It is individual stages that have been crafted by the designers, but the order of which you find in which place is procedurally generated. So the layout of the level is unpredictable, although you can upgrade things and make them static if you purchase that. But so it'll always feel fresh and different, but it's not that the form. It's not like Diablo where the formation of the actual level is randomized. It's
kind of like if you played the first one, you knew this boss was down, So I just needed to go down, and okay, I can't go down any further. I go right and then down. It's kind of like that. It has that sense.
Well,
of-
but even more than that, it's when you walk to a new room, that room you may have seen 15 times before. Like the
Yeah.
way that room works, if that room is a puzzle or a specific thing, it's like jigsaw puzzle pieces that are placed into different puzzles every time. But the piece is still the same. It's just that where it's located in the puzzle is different. You know, it's more like a Lego piece or something. You know, it's a modular rather than purely procedurally generated.
Yeah.
Got
But
it.
You
That's
did
exciting.
talk about the art and, not being a fan. I think the art is much better in this one. There's the biomes. I think there's 6.
It's
'cause
gorgeous.
I think there are 6 bosses. It has the same type of feel of like you must defeat these number of bosses and then you get the big boss.
Yeah.
But the biomes feel both, they have a different look to them, but they also have a different flavor in terms of what you're doing. Like Jeff was talking about, the Echo Boot section is very different from the starting section in terms of there's a lot more Celeste-esque platforming, and then there's like a snow level and it has a little bit more of its own flavor. So it doesn't just feel like doing the same thing in different visual palettes. These are kind of different tones, similar to Ori, where
Yeah.
you go into that area and that area has its own vibe.
And the other place I think it's really blown out the variety, at least from the first game, the hook with Rogue Legacy was that every time you die, and it's a roguelike, so you're going to die over and over and over again, you go in, you collect as much gold as you can and try to get as far as you can, die, and then you can spend that gold on various upgrades that carry over through your legacy. But your legacy is the real hook of the game is that you spawn as a new member of your clan, your heritage, that has these various traits. So every time you start the game, you're slightly different. You have some good traits that get you some things, and some perhaps bizarre, weird traits like you're colorblind, and so the game is literally black and white throughout the whole thing. Or there's one that's called Vertigo, which is particularly annoying, where it literally flips the screen upside down. There's tons of them. But every time you start the game, it's slightly different. And there's also lots of really good traits. But the way that they have blown out the second iteration in this franchise is in the number of classes that you can also unlock and choose. Because as you start as you die and start a new run, you'll get to choose from one of 3 randomly generated legacy characters, heritage characters. But I don't know about you, Anthony, but I love the variety in the classes. They really behave very differently. They have lots of really cool. I mean, there's like a chef class.
Yeah, I actually really, really like the chef.
It's cool. The chef's like all damage over time stuff, and
you can. I don't know if you noticed, but you can actually use. So he hits with a pan, and you can actually hit projectiles back with the pan.
Yeah, it's a frying pan. But there's like a weird delay with the pan attack that's different than any other of the classes. So like the classes are all individually very different from one another, and you also level them up. So the more you play a class, the more experience points you get for that class, and you level them up individually too. So there's that's in addition to all the myriad unlocks in your castle and all the perks that you're finding in the level. So there's just like tons and tons of stuff to do.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast.
I would say there may be a little too much.
Interesting.
You don't get that sense that like, there's just so many things to spend my coins on. Like, wow, this is because what I liked a lot about Rogue Legacy was the goal. I like roguelikes where there's a goal, even if I'm not going to beat a boss or do this or do that. I have a goal, and usually that goal is, okay, well, I see this thing, I want to buy it, so I need to get enough coins for that thing or this or that. And I always ended up, going after those things, but then you unlock a lot of things to spend gold on. I don't know if you met the pizza lady.
I haven't met the pizza lady yet.
Okay, so it's a familiar thing for Rogue Legacy, but she is expensive. But there's so many things, there's
Yeah.
so many things to spend your coins on, like
there's-
armor and
There's
this
three. There's three different.
vendors.
No currencies. There's like.
Oh yeah.
There's like
That's
coins,
also
but
as
there's
well,
also
yeah.
platinum and blood, and like there's all these. There's just like everything is more, and exactly what Anthony said at the beginning. It's like, yes, Rogue Legacy, but what if 10 times more? And I'm into it. I don't know, but you're saying it's too much.
I don't want to say that I don't like it. It just it felt, as I got further and further, it felt like, okay, I got 12,000 or 1,200 gold. What do I spend it on? I was like, well, there's just so many things I want to spend it on that I just like, I want to complete the game, but I also want to go in with like a full kit and like feel confident. I'm not very, I'm not very good against this boss or that boss. So I feel like I need to invest in health or strength so I do more damage, but also it'd be nice to, you permanently unlock armor or relics. So relics are like a new thing, I believe, where you find them in the world and you can put those on, and
they cost resolve, which is another new kind of currency.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, the crazy thing will be like, oh, I want to upgrade my health. Oh, cool. There's like 10 tiers of health upgrade. I'll spend money, and then you unlock a new thing. And it's like, here's health upgrades. I'm like, what? Another 10 tiers of health upgrades? It's crazy.
And then there's a vendor that you spend souls on, who then will unlock more tiers of the health tiers. And it's I got to that point playing the other day, and I was kind of in a groove. And then it was really when I met the pizza lady. I was like, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed.
Just like real life. When you meet the pizza lady, you're like, oh, what have I done with my life?
I'm so overwhelmed, but it is really a great game. It feels, the bosses have a good sense of pattern memorization, and it feels really satisfying to, dodge this attack and, know this attack is coming, position yourself perfectly, then get in your hits. Having different classes makes you play differently. Some are faster, some are slower, some are more valuable just being on the ground, some are more viable in the air. It's really a great game. I think Steam Deck is probably going to be a perfect platform for it.
Well, I'm sure that's exactly the point you are most curious about, Christian, and I'm here to tell you, as somebody who played the first Rogue Legacy so much that I literally bought a laptop computer specifically for that game and plugged a USB Xbox 360 controller into it to take on a flight to Australia. And I literally played whatever the 17 hours it takes to get to Australia, whatever it is. I played the entire flight with that with that laptop computer on my tray, my what do they call it? Your
tray table.
Thank you. Anyway, now I'm doing that as I'm flying to Atlanta every weekend to work for FCF, Fan Control Football. I am using my Steam Deck, and I'm here to tell you it is a vastly improved experience. It is what I always wanted. Like that game is so perfect on it. It looks gorgeous. It's so much better looking than the first Rogue Legacy. Plays absolutely stellar on the Steam Deck. It's like, this is what I wanted back in 2017 or whatever it was when the first one came out. It's great.
Is this, like you mentioned, you brought a laptop. I do like thinking the person next to you on the flight is like, oh man, this person's really here to get down to business. They're not gonna. Oh, never mind. They are playing a game. I mean, that game was at the tippy top of your list. For a long time. Do you think because you experienced this early access before, or maybe there were just too many other good games, or is this game quickly climbing? Is it challenging? I would guess Horizon right now. Have you kind of found it?
Well, the good news is
your discussion already.
Good news is I can't play Horizon on my Steam Deck, right? So I'm not playing Horizon. There's no.
No, I just meant like end of year mental kind of ranking and thinking of games right now.
Well, I'll tell you what has happened that is, I think, pretty telling if you've been listening to this show for the last few weeks, is I haven't played Vampire Survivors since this was installed on my Steam Deck, because it's that compulsive. Got to play another one. Oh, got to play another one. Oh my gosh, look at the options of the next 3 guys in my legacy that I can open up. I gotta play one more round. So I am fully in love with this game again, and it's wild. I guess enough time passed since I played it in 2020 that it still feels like a fresh experience. But
That's
also,
cool.
it is it is amazing how much the game has progressed since then. It was just so little content when it first came in early access, and that's the point, right? That's the point of early access. But it really was so much of that castle upgrades were just like not in the game yet, not in the game yet, and it's just like, oh well, why am I doing this? But the good news is, Anthony, when I turned it on and loaded it up for the first time for 1.0, it's like, you have 7,000 gold to spend. I was like, ooh, I'm buying everything.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I just had
I'd be curious how many people would jump into it, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Rogue Legacy sort of started that, or was early in that trend of lots of games, Dead Cells and those.
Yes.
So I'm curious how many people will jump into Rogue Legacy 2 and be like, well, I didn't play the first one because I played, my first game was Dead Cells, or my first game was this game, and look at
Right.
Rogue Legacy and go, because there's so many details from Rogue Legacy 1 and Rogue Legacy 2, but that have been refined based on feedback or seeing what other games are doing. It is just a really, really good version of those, but it doesn't necessarily do anything terribly different. So I'd be curious to know how many people are, because you and I, we played the first one, or the 3 of us, we played the first one, so we know what we're getting. But I'm curious how many people will hear you rave about it and then go, "Oh, well."
I guess that's just interesting. I mean, if you're a huge fan of Dead Cells, and that's the roguelite platformer that got you into these, this may feel like a step back. I don't know. I think the number of different classes is really things sets it apart, and I do think the thing that hooked me in the game the first time I played the first one, which is, every time I start, it really is a different experience because of these traits that the characters have. I do think that's a fundamental differentiator for this franchise. That is really special to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I just was curious I'm curious how other people are going to feel about it, because for me, when I started to play it, it was like, oh yeah, wait, was this in the first game? And I had to look up the first game, and I was like, oh, it was in the first game. Oh yeah, this was in the game. And the details are obviously more improved, but it is very much a 2, more so than like a revamp.
Rogue Legacy mixed with a sequel. That's what they call it. But, it's working for me. I'm really loving it. But yeah, I'd love to hear folks tell us. You can comment on this on the Patreon, or in the Discord, or on the subreddit. We love incorporating that in our Wednesday show, the paid DLC show. We're getting more feedback involved in that show as well. So let us know. But Anthony, what else is on your playlist?
I played Nintendo Switch Sports with a leg strap where appropriate.
Okay. Hopefully where appropriate is the leg.
Well, you can only use it
know
for
where is inappropriate. You know,
you can only use it for soccer, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
But,
Sorry.
your minds. I mean, I really like, obviously, everybody, their mother, their grandmother, their dog loved Wii Sports. And so I think if you liked Wii Sports and you own a Switch, you'll enjoy Switch Sports. It's a more refined version of that experience with some new sports like soccer, badminton. What is that? Thank you. Chambra, I think is what it's called, which was sort of, I think, in maybe Wii Sports Resorts, which is like you're dueling with swords, but like foam swords. Mm-hmm. There is bowling, there is tennis. Oh, volleyball is the other one. That's new.
Well, the big question for me is, theoretically, the controllers on the Switch, the Joy-Cons, aren't as tracked as the old Wii remote was. Even though we're years later, it's
I
different.
don't really notice too much.
No,
like bowling, you can put a little hook on your ball. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm less precise or anything like that. I think that they mechanically took into account that it isn't going to be as precise as a Wiimote, but I still felt like I was, doing the volleyball things of like the set spike, bump,
Yeah.
whatever the terms are. Sorry, volleyball people.
I think you got it right, actually.
But they give you enough to do. When Wii Sports was around, like tennis was just okay. Well, I just swing it this way or that way. But badminton has like you can do like a drop shot, and you can really kind of precisely hit the shuttle thing into the the appropriate place that you want to hit it. So I never really felt that it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, despite the fact that it doesn't have that precision of the sensor on the TV, because you do point it at the TV, you kind of do calibrate it before you start. But I'm a big soccer fan. I play soccer to this day. I've been playing it all my life, so soccer is my favorite of the options in there. It's kind of like a mix between Rocket League and if you remember the Fall Guys soccer experience, it's very fun. But I think all of the games are good fun, and you can play them online now with friends and do all that stuff. The first day it was a little wonky in terms of connectivity, but it's gotten a lot better since then. And I've enjoyed it a lot. I think if you own a Switch and you were a fan of Wii Sports, I think you'll be a fan of this.
All right. Nintendo Switch Sports. It's wild to me to think that in the second ever episode of the Totally Rad Show in 2007, we played Wii Sports with my mom. So,
you gotta get your mom back out for some Switch Sports
I
thing.
guess.
You can't. Your rogue legacy needs to continue, Jeff.
I guess. What else you been playing, Anthony?
Well, I played the Bug Snacks DLC. If you want to talk about some bugs, the Isle of Big Snacks.
Well, now it's on Game Pass, so I guess we can all play Bug Snacks.
It's true. Yeah, I really enjoyed Bug Snacks. It has like a special place in my heart because it was the first game I played with my kid, not like with him playing, but him watching, and he enjoyed it. He was invested in seeing the different Bug Snacks because strawberry with legs, and it's a burger, and the legs are French fries.
It's no teacup ride.
It's no teacup ride, but he loved Bug Snacks. When we did everything we could, we got the platinum trophy, and he was still saying, "Can we play Bug Snacks?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really want to play any more Bug Snacks. We did everything you could do."
Daddy wants to play Elden Ring.
Exactly. But so this one just it adds a new island. It's called oh no, it escapes me.
The Isle of Big Snacks.
No. The island has a name.
Of the expansion.
That's the name of the DLC. I apologize for not, but yeah, there's new Bug Snacks. There's big Bug Snacks as well. There's like a new, it's like a spice that you essentially throw at some of the Bug Snacks to make them smaller. And the puzzle
big Bug Snacks are called Bug Meals, actually.
Indeed,
so we should,
indeed.
yeah.
But yeah, I found it to be just more Bug Snacks, and that was all I really was looking for. Some of that puzzle element. How do you catch these things? There's some clever Bug Snacks designs. There's a lobster that's like made out of like pasta shells.
Oh, neat.
Like rigatoni shells, kind of. There's I think it's called a pielet. It's like a spider its body is a pie, but like in a plastic covering, like a plastic, like you snap it around the edges and it has a little tape around it. There's a spider that's spaghetti and meatballs. There's just some clever ones in there. I think if you enjoyed Bug Snacks, or if you just have never played Bug Snacks, highly recommend it if you have kids. It's a fun, game to just have them watch whether they want to play or not. It's very simple. In terms of how you catch them, it's not going to challenge you in any significant ways. And the characters are really fun. You can feed them Bug Snacks and change their limbs into different foods, and all of those things my kid loved. So I was excited to have DLC for this game. And it being on Game Pass, I hope more people give it a try.
I am definitely in that Venn diagram you just described of having never played Bugsnax and also having kids. So maybe I should try it. But having never played it, my instinct about it is that it is basically this generation's Viva Pinata.
A little bit, yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Where you're like, you'll show it to some people and they go, well, what's the game here? And you're like, well, you're just scanning them and then you catch them and you can just catch a bunch of them. But there are some like puzzles here and there in terms of like, oh, this bug snack is cold. So the tools that I would normally work won't work. So first I have to get maybe a bug snack that is a fire bug snack, or there's a fire torch nearby, and then, cool it out and then catch it. There's a little bit of light puzzle solving and things like that. Enough to make it dynamic through 3/4, I would say, of the main game. Eventually you're just doing the same thing. But I really, really enjoyed it, specifically because I played it with my kid, and it was that game where he was like, can we play Bug Snacks? And we did.
Cool. Anything else?
Well, I played Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, which is Stanley Parable again.
Yeah, well, that's my question. I love the first, when I first played Stanley Parable, but is this just the same game, or is there new avenues?
There is new stuff, but I didn't pick up on what was new because I played it so long ago.
Yeah, 10 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah, but it's still, I like Bug Snacks, like Rogue Legacy, like Nintendo Switch Sports. If you have not played Stanley Parable, I highly recommend you play Stanley Parable. It's a really clever game. It's not mechanically intense. It's the writing and the way that you interact with this narrator who essentially tells you what Stanley is supposed to do, and then you can do it or not do it. And then it leads to a lot of crazy things. But there's a section where you just go into a closet, or I went into a closet and I just sat in the closet, and the narrator talked to me for like 10 minutes about like, Stanley did not go in the closet anymore. He is ready to leave. Okay, Stanley is now done. And then you leave it and he goes, okay, Stanley's back on track. And then you go back in and he's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And, he'll say things like break the fourth wall and say, oh, a second player has taken over and is now actually doing what he's supposed to be doing. But the writing in that game is what pushes it forward. And it's super clever in the way that it interacts with what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is kind of what you were talking about with the first Rogue Legacy, where this kind of feels like the first of those games. Now there's a bunch of kind of meta. You're playing the playing of a game, and I like most of those games, but I felt like this was the first one where it was like, oh, wow, this game is aware of literally everything. They've predicted every behavior I could possibly do.
Yeah, it's essentially like every game afterwards said, well, we can do Stanley Parable and then we'll give you a portal gun, or we'll give you, a this or that. And whereas Stanley Parable is a lot of just walking around and choosing what you do. But there's a ton of endings. There's a lot of different ways to interact with the game. And the Ultra Deluxe version, or Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, I think is now the way to play. It looks really, really good as well. I don't remember the first game or the original version looking bad, but this game looks really, really nice.
Originally released October 17th, 2013. So,
okay.
Yeah, not quite 10 years.
It seems like it's a nice pairing just broadly of like in an office of like, I'd love to see them do a Severance DLC or something.
I think they actually said Severance drew on Stanley Parable for inspiration. I think
I could see that. I mean, the settings, and again, my memory of playing Stanley Parable, is it a weekend confirmed? I don't know what I need to go back and listen to, but like, I don't remember it as much as I remember the feeling of it as like, oh yeah, breakthrough, groundbreaking, like the way that this game is able to, like you said, Jeff, anticipate everything. And I do think it's been long enough that people haven't played it. Yeah. And I'd hope that it still withstands that test of, a lot of other games have kind of done parts of it since then. But it's on Switch now also, right? This Ultra Deluxe version, I think.
Yes, I believe so. But I think the narration, the interaction with the narrator is not like locked in a time capsule in terms of the humor. It's British humor that I think is super timeless because it's not about being overly crass or
Right.
being super referential. It's all rooted in what you're doing. So
Right.
it makes sense for playing it today or playing it 10 years from now.
I would put this game in the category of being a classic. So this is
Yeah.
a classic video. It's one of those, I think, put it in the game Hall of Fame. Stanley Parable. It should be played by everybody game. Yeah. Cool. That's Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Christian Spicer, what about you? What's on your playlist?
So not anything new this week, which feels kind of good to say, as I'm still drowning in hours of video games that I want to be and wish to be playing. I've played a lot more Gran Turismo 7. Thanks, Paul, for last week. But the biggest thing for me for where I am as we're recording this show, and it hasn't arrived yet, was getting my Steam Deck email, hey, you can send us money now. We'll send you the device for the thing that you ordered a long time ago. And it was an emotional roller coaster, folks. I was like, do I do it? Do I wait for version 2? You can't. The Windows hacks are still my games that are on Epic. How do they all run? This, that, and the other. And I really had this. I mean, I got it right. I bought it. So, like, spoiler for the end here of Lost, of how it all ends. I bought it. I saw the symbols on the wall and I bought it. But there was this few hours, like kind of the course of the day from when I got the email in the morning till in the evening when I said that let's do it, Valve, of do I do this or do I do the wheel, the racing wheel? And as I had been playing a lot of Gran Turismo 7, they were kind of, and I was in it in that moment. And I was like, well, where does this money go? Air quote, definitely air quote, for best spent between these two gaming experiences. And I think what ultimately pushed me over, I love handheld gaming. I have always loved handheld gaming. I've talked about it, way back on Weekend Confirmed about moments playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 on my GBA, flying around the country for track and stuff like that. And now with my analog pocket and playing games on GeForce Now and playing games in bed, ultimately what it comes down to for me, and where the Steam Deck doesn't quite solve it, but I think it gets me closer there, is I want all my games everywhere. And that's what I love so much about cloud gaming, is that if you have internet, it hopefully delivers that experience of so many of your games everywhere. And so far, no service really delivers on all of your games everywhere. But the Steam Deck seems to get pretty close, as I was like, well, next year's games maybe won't run that well on it as the hardware continues to get pushed and we get the 4080s out or whatever, whatever the next GPU is. But I have this incredible archive of old Steam games that should hopefully run like a breeze on it as I'm revisiting PS3 and playing all these older games and all these indie games and not waiting for them to come out on Switch. I love the idea, and hearing you talk about it, Jeff, of what Valve promises of, pick up and play on your deck. It kind of instantly saves that progress over when you sit back down on your PC. And to me, even maybe above and beyond cloud gaming, I think cloud gaming is a solve for that. But it's that idea of all of my games everywhere, whenever and however I want to play them. And that's ultimately what pushed me over to take the plunge on the Steam Deck, is this idea of, yeah, it's my games. This broad library, and not all of them. I know there's still asterisks and caveats, but that they got my money. So I should have it in time for maybe Wednesday's show, Jeff.
Oh, awesome.
And if not, for sure next week.
Well, I think you'll find one of the things I'm most impressed with it is how Valve has done the messaging around what works and what doesn't on it. They're very granular about it. It's not just, hey, this will run. I mean, there are games that run perfectly great, but Valve does not give it the distinction of being, great on Steam Deck, which is a tab that you have on your Steam Deck. If, for example, the text is too tiny to read on the screen, or it doesn't perfectly translate to the controls that happen to be on the Steam Deck. That is a little clunky. And I have found that to be extremely helpful. I mean, there are games that I have loaded onto it where I've said to myself, oh, there's no way this won't run great on Steam Deck. And it's true. It does run great on Steam Deck, but it's still not in my, featured games in the menu because you have to find it and tell it to run it because it'll give you that warning screen. It's like, okay, here's the list of issues that we know about this game. And the tiny text is actually a pretty significant thing. And I love how they're holding developers to task about that. And I think you're going to see patches and games that will have a Steam Deck specific modes and functionality to remedy some of those tiny little nitpicks, which are nits. There's actually a zoom feature that you can hold down the Steam button and press one of the buttons at the same time, and it'll zoom in to read tiny text, which is super useful. And I've used a number of times, but yeah, it is annoying when the text is too small to read on that little screen. So it's awesome that Valve is being that specific about calling out those things per game and like, hey, we're not going to tell you this game runs great, even though you're going to have no problems with frame rate or stuttering or any of that stuff that would normally be what is considered not great. But it's these other things that are not great. And I really respect them for that. I think it's great, for them to do.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I think what kind of pushed me over the edge too is this desire to tinker. I was texting you about, adding Epic Game Store games to it, and it seems like it's fairly simple to get that. But then again, you have do they run with Proton or not? And how does that kind of, I get not emulation, but the Linux kind of overlay for forcing some of these games. But that also excites me in a way that I'm sure I will spend many hours. That will be the game playing I will do for the day.
Well, as long as you don't go full Carboni. I don't know if you've heard about what Anthony did on his Twitch stream, but he decided to.
Okay, I'm going to watch it. Okay,
yeah, he did a full. Evidently, he broke his Steam Deck. He knew he was going in, but he tried to upgrade the RAM in it or something, and you have to physically pry things open and break stuff. Yeah, he was. So you should watch.
My tinkering is just following tutorials that other people have already done, and I am not charting
he was doing that too.
North Atlantic Passage here. I am hopefully, and the other big thing about it for me, between that and a wheel, which let's be honest, I still might one day, is putting it away. I like the idea of you can put it away.
Yeah,
it has a case and it gets put away. But I'm super
great case too.
I'm super excited.
Anthony, do you have a Steam Deck? Are you getting a Steam Deck? Are you?
So Christian and I were talking about it. So I didn't really. I was like, what?
Same with me.
I guess, yeah. But then Elden Ring, obviously, and then Rogue Legacy, like enough games. So I did put in a pre-order recently, and I will get one, but not for a while. But I'm one of those weirdos that has never played his Switch undocked. So I don't even know how much I'll use it.
Interesting.
I don't.
I definitely.
I work from home. I don't go anywhere.
Well, I definitely am not using it in the way that is the marquee way to use it, in the sense of the people are like, you can play God of War PC on it. You can play, you can play, Destiny on it. You can play, I'm not using it for these big, massive PC games that it's like, wow, you can actually play that on handheld. I think that's cool, but I am loving it for the stuff like Rogue Legacy, Vampire Survivors, the stuff that I loved playing handheld on my Switch as well, which is these sort of indie titles, these pick up and play games, these games where I'm not worried about the fan going, because it's like, oh, got this, but that's still a great use case for me for it. There's still enough of those great games like that I am so grateful that I'm not like, oh, I hope it comes out on Switch. Oh, I hope it comes out on Switch. Because also it feels a heck of a lot better than the Switch to me. It really does. As I'm an adult human with hands that are adult human size, it feels way better. It's heavier, that's for sure. But it's it feels better to me.
Yeah, I mean, I have become a frame rate snob because of the next gen and all that. Playing like, firing up any game on Switch, it's like, oh no, I
Yeah.
gotta play at 30 frames. I don't want to. But yeah, I will get the Steam Deck and I will probably take advantage of it. But yeah, I have this problem of it. Yeah, I'm at home all the time, so if I just want to play a game, I just walk over. But it's just, yeah, at once I started playing Rogue Legacy and I was thinking, when I'm doing whatever, when we're just watching TV or watching a basketball game, I could be farming some gold. This seems too good to pass up. Okay, I'll get one.
Yeah. I've been blown away by mine. Totally.
I love the dedicated device as much as I love, some gaming on my phone. I think Apple Arcade has interesting games and experiences. I find that like I don't really want to game on my phone because I'll get a text or be distracted by something else. And don't get me wrong, I game a lot on my PC and I game a lot on my consoles. But also like I'll sit down on my PC and it's like I'll see the work that I should be doing there on the desktop. And I love the idea. Like I pick up my Switch a lot because it's just like I'm done playing. Off we go and playing. And I hope I'll be talking a lot more about the deck in that regard as well, where I'm not also checking Twitter or also reading the news or also doing this other stuff. It's just, I have 15 minutes, easy peasy. Let's go.
I've said it many times now. The best feature of the thing is that quick resume. It is so nice to be able to, play, just grab it. You don't have to boot up your computer. You don't have to open a laptop it's just, boop, it's on, you're back in right where you left off. Go. Really cool. Well, one of the games that, I've been playing nonstop Rogue Legacy 2, but another game that came out this week that I've been looking forward to a lot, and I immediately purchased and played on my Steam Deck, which is one of the games where I realized, oh yeah, that tiny text is a problem on this thing, is a game called Teardown. This is a really clever idea, which is why I had my eye on it for a long time. As soon as I saw the announcement trailer for Teardown, I was like, this seems like a game I would dig. It's basically a Minecraft-esque sort of voxel-looking world made up of, a crude kind of Lego-type boxes. But there's actually a story here. There's a campaign. And the idea is that you're doing these heists. You are doing jobs where you have to break into places and steal things and get out without getting caught. But because the world is built like a Minecraft world, literally every single thing can be broken, bashed, destroyed, blown up, moved, changed. And they all have properties that are consistent with the materials that they are. So if you have a big brick building, it's going to be a heck of a lot harder to break into than a wooden building, for example. And there are vehicles to drive, big tractors and cranes and stuff that happen to be left around some of these sites. And there are security systems, and there are tons of different entrances and exits. And of course, you can always make your own by just breaking through a wall and destroying things. It's a brilliant concept because it's a sandbox that actually gives you context for what to do in it. And I really think it's a pretty cool game. My only caveat is I find myself, I guess if there wasn't a Rogue Legacy 2, I'd be playing a lot more of this, but I find myself less inclined to turn on a game of Tearaway simply because of the anxiety that it gives me. It's one of those things. What?
Teardown. Tearaway is that PS Vita game.
Yes, sorry, Teardown. Yes, pardon me. But anyway, it gives me anxiety because it's constantly that, are you going to get caught? You did a thing. A timer is up on the screen. Can you get out before the timer expires? I didn't do it. Now, that said, the game does a lot of things. Chief among them gives you quick saves and even suggests quick saves. Says, hey, you're about to do something crazy, dude. You should probably quick save right now. And the quick saves load really fast. So in that sense, there are a lot of tools that it gives you as far as is not, easing that you're not going to lose tons of progress if you don't make the timer or whatever. But still, for a gamer like me who gets, I just don't like it when a number comes up on the screen. It's like 15, 14, 13. Get to the car. Ah! I know that creates tension and exactly what the designers wanted to do. But for me, that tension is not pleasurable most of the time. But I do think the game is brilliant. I think it lives up to its premise, which is, and there's a lot more story there than I expected as well. There's a lot of fun writing of how the missions are laid out. And you have this little, you have this little flop house that you start in every time. And you get emails on your computer that like tell you the thing, and you get more information about this shady corporation that you're stealing from. And it's cool. One of the like the second mission, you as you know, when you start it, you wake up and your alarm clock is going off, and of course you can smash your alarm clock, and because everything in the game can be broken and destroyed, and it's kind of there to literally have you just bash the crap out of this alarm clock. So there's a lot of clever kind of tongue-in-cheek stuff as well. I recommend it. It's called Tear Down. And I played it on PC and on Steam Deck.
Does it scratch that Red Faction itch in a way? Because that's kind of like the early trailers I saw for it were like, because it has those missions, like Red Faction, I feel like the missions would sometimes be don't smash everything. And I was like, yeah, okay, Red Faction.
Yeah. It's an interesting comparison. I didn't make that connection, but it does make sense. I think the biggest differentiator is that it's not third person. It's first person. Teardown is. So it doesn't feel like Red Faction. And it doesn't have that sort of open world quality of Red Faction. You really are dropped into missions very specifically and have to figure them out. And they are sandboxes, but not in the same way that the big open world of Red Faction Guerrilla was, which I liked so much. So yeah, it doesn't really feel that way. And also graphically, it's much more Minecraft-y, and it's sort of abstracted a bit. So it really has its own look and feel. I kind of wish the game was third person, frankly. I find, I get a little disoriented how close I am to something before I can hit it, how close I have to move a tractor to be able to get to a window by climbing up the top of the tractor. Oh, I didn't get close enough because the first person was little. I couldn't rotate the camera around and really look at it. It's so, yeah, those are little nitpicks, but I think ultimately it's a pretty cool game, and in contrast to what you're saying, it feels really original. It doesn't really feel like anything else. It's like, oh wow, it's a heist. It really is a heist game, whereas the Red Faction Guerrilla was like, all kinds of different things where you'd go in and kill a bunch of people. You're not running into other humans in this game. These are abandoned places, and you just have to deal with security systems, alarms mostly. All right, that's our playlist. And that's our show. We do have parting gifts coming up, so stick around for those. But Anthony Taormina, it's always great to talk to you. I miss seeing you in person. Thank you for being here.
Indeed. Yes, thank you for having me. I'm always available.
And we appreciate it more than you know. Tell the folks where they can keep up with the things that you put out on the internet.
Well, GameRant.com, I am editor-in-chief. I don't write too much. I am working on some things based on my Disney trip. I'm going to kind of do, let's be honest, I want to be able to expense this Disney trip. So I am going to talk about the new Spider-Man ride, which is there, which is really awesome. And then Rise of the Resistance, which is the new Star Wars ride, or newish Star Wars ride. So if you want to read about those, they should be going up this week. But GameRant.com, I'm there curating the content in a lot of ways, and then if you don't like that content, I'm not responsible for it. That stuff wasn't me. I didn't do that. And then you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @AntTaormina, which is spelled ANTAORMINA.
I'm looking forward to reading how the new Spider-Man ride compares to the teacups. I just hope that every rundown is it as good as the teacups?
It was not as good as the teacups for my kid, but for me, being able to, thwip with your hands is pretty awesome.
Cool. I usually thwip with my hip. Christian Spicer, what about you? What do you got going on this week?
Not thinking about your comment any longer than I had to, Jeff. I'm going to let that one go in one ear and out the other. I have a newsletter where I write long form about video games. It's called Let's Chat Games. You can subscribe to that for free at tinyletter.com/Christian Spicer. It's usually one or two a month or so. I'm kicking around two ideas for this next one. Both excite me. I imagine it will be. I'll settle on one for this upcoming one here now that we're in May, and then the other one will follow shortly thereafter because I like both of those ideas. And then what I've started doing now is after that newsletter goes out, when I have the time to get and do it, I do video versions of those newsletters. And those video versions I put up on the DLC Patreon. So you can find those at patreon.com/DLC pod sometime after the newsletter comes out. And I have time to shoot and edit a video, which sometimes I have a lot of time for, and other times it takes a little bit. It takes a little bit of time. And then Twitter's the best way to see, what other sites I buy, however I spend my other billions of dollars. And you can follow me on there at Elon Musk is where I am on his website. I have a profile on Elon's personal website.
Yeah.
And you can find me there at Spicer.
We're doing the best we can to try to get as much value into that Patreon as we possibly can. Christian's doing awesome stuff, adding bonus shows and bonus content. I'm doing the same, and we are open to your suggestions and requests. I think we're going to try to do a push toward 1,000 patrons. I think that's our main goal at this point. We have close to 800. And so there are 200 more of you listening who think, hey, I'm right on the cusp of wanting to support this show. Give us a shot. I think you'll dig the bonus content. I think you'll feel good about helping the show stay going. That's patreon.com/DLC pod. Of course, we never want anyone to support us if it will cause you in any way, any financial hardship. There are lots of easy, free ways to support the show as well, if that's the case for you, including telling your friend about it, writing us a review on your platform of choice. We love that as well. It helps. It really does. And posting on social media about the show. We really appreciate the folks that do that too. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jeff Cannata, which is spelled with 2 N's and 1 T. I have several other shows, including the Filmcast, which is a movie and TV review show that I do. Quite fun. I do a comedy science show called We Have Concerns. And I do the Fan Controlled Show, which is a podcast about fan-controlled football, which I'm also involved in. I am calling professional football games, ladies and gentlemen. I was on a call. I was in the broadcast booth when Terrell Owens caught a touchdown pass from star Clemson quarterback Kelly Bryant this weekend. I mean, as a guy who grew up idolizing the San Francisco 49ers, I got to be on the call do color commentary for a touchdown pass for Terrell Owens. Pretty special. And the games this last weekend were incredible. All of them, all 4 games. I got to do all 4 games. Usually I only do 2, the first 2 of the day, but I got to do all 4 this week, and all 4 were top tier, right down to the last second nail biter thrillers. You should check it out. I think I'm having a blast watching fan controlled football. It really is a mashup between elite sports and video games. It's Madden in real life. Fans call the plays just like you do in Madden. And yet people like Terrell Owens and Johnny Manziel and all these star athletes run the play that you call. It's pretty cool. So check it out. Twitch.tv/FCF for fan controlled football. All right.
You can't have Bo Jackson in the league because everyone would call. I know you say it's like Madden, but everybody would just do Tecmo Bowl and be like, give it to Bo. Give the ball to Bo Jackson. Touchdown every time. Every single time.
Well, there are players like that, my friend. And it is.
I saw some of the replays. I would say, too, it was cool. Like the overlay of the play with the play. There's some cool tech.
There's nothing
very,
like
very
it.
cool tech.
Yeah, you get to see the play they're going to run before they run it. We do literally an overlay, and there's a drone that films the play. There's nothing like fan control football. It's wild, and I just am having so much fun being a part of it this season for season 2.0. Yeah, but thanks for checking that out. All right, let's wrap the show up now with our parting gifts.
Hey, give us a suggestion of what to do this week. Give us a parting gift. This is your parting gift.
Anthony, do you have a suggestion to help people get through their week?
Well, I have two. One, I snuck onto Tabletop Time, and we didn't get to talk about it. So I would just like to give a shout
Do
out
it.
to something.
Yes.
It is called the Movie Game. There's a YouTube channel called The Valley Folk, and they would play this game called the Movie Game. They would bring on a lot of popular people that you might know from like Rooster Teeth, like James Williams and Elise, his wife. But the game itself is right up my alley. It is a card-based game where you mash up two movies, and you try and guess what those movies are. And I prepared one for you guys.
Oh,
Just for funsies.
okay.
Just for funsies, so you can get a sampling of this, because I used to watch these YouTube videos. I loved them, and then they made a game. You can actually subscribe to it or buy it through Kickstarter at the Valley Folk. I think it's just valleyfolk.com, and they'll have it. But so what I'm going to do, essentially how it works is you read the description for a mashup between two movies, and the way that they mash up. I know Christian is already like, you're putting me on the spot.
Is this exactly the game we used to play on the Totally Rad show? We called it Movie Mashup, but
maybe
somebody just monetize our idea.
They might have.
I got to go back and start rewatching some TRS. I got to get some games out.
Oh, we did, dude. We did a whole bunch of games. We did maybe a half a dozen different games. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
You might be right. But yeah, essentially the way it works is the first movie title has to connect to the second movie title.
We did this in 2009.
Well,
anyway, go
I'm
ahead.
your lawyer now. Okay.
Yeah.
So here it is. A forever child sprinkles pixie dust upon British youths and they fly away to a super secure lockdown chamber nestled inside their house to avoid a violent Dwight Yoakam.
All right, say it again. Say the whole thing again.
A forever child sprinkles pixie dust upon British youths and they fly away.
Peter Pan's Labyrinth.
Nope. To a super secure lockdown chamber nestled
Peter
inside
Panic
their
Room.
home. Yep. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now by bringing this up and now saying that I just, am promoting something that, violates copyright laws.
We should have. It literally is what we did. We called it Movie Mashup. That is pretty hilarious. But yes, we literally did that for years on my
brand
show.
new board game for every entertainment lover, brought to you by the Valley Folk, the creators of the popular movie game series on YouTube.
Valley Folk.
Anyway, I did want to give it a shout out because I am a crazy movie fan, and it is a great game. But my actual parting gift is I'm going to give a big thumbs up recommendation to Star Trek Strange New Worlds or Worlds. The upcoming series. I've watched a couple of them with my dad. He's a big Star Trek fan. And we've watched some of the other Star Trek series on Paramount Plus, formerly CBS All Access, like Picard and Discovery. And they just haven't met the same vibe for him of like Next Generation, which was his jam. But we watched a couple Strange New World and he loves it.
Awesome.
It is a spinoff from Discovery, but if you're like a kind of traditional or an old school Star Trek fan that maybe didn't like the new things that they've been doing, maybe you'll enjoy Strange New World.
I've heard Picard I watched the first season of Picard, or at least a few episodes of it, and I was very turned off as a huge fan of the Next Generation. But I've heard like season 2 gets better, and supposedly season 3 is going to be amazing.
Well, he enjoys it because they just started jamming all of his characters into the show.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, well, we're just gonna give all this
It
money.
has,
But
like everybody. Yeah.
he, like you, was like, I like Picard, I love Next Generation, but this is not what I'm looking for. But Strange New World is, because it's like more one-off type of episodes, adventures, things like that.
All right. Christian Spicer, what about you? What's your parting gift?
I think you all have talked about it on the Filmcast some, Jeff, and I think if my ears are correct in remembering, you maybe haven't started, and maybe I doubt I will be the grain of sand that pushes you over the edge. But Better Call Saul, which is now in its last and final season on
Last
regular
and
TV,
final.
last and final. Thank you. Last, final, and ultimate. On regular TV, it had its first 5 on Netflix here in the US. It's phenomenal. And I don't know if it sticks to the landing because the landing hasn't happened yet. I think maybe better than Breaking Bad.
Wow.
And just didn't seem to get the heat. And I don't know if it didn't get the heat because Breaking Bad came out before everything was streaming. You know, I know Breaking Bad got a boost from then getting onto Netflix, and that kind of what elevated it. But like Breaking Bad, there was just Netflix. You know, we all watch the same shows, and it's an incredible show. And what really blows my mind about Better Call Saul is the idea that it is a prequel where so many of the characters you know what happens to in some regard.
Mhm.
And it's such a difficult thing to do. So many other franchises have tried, you know, major franchises have tried to go back to that well and tell the story before the story that they've told, and very few stick it. And I think what Odenkirk and team, Vince Gillian and the crew behind Better Call Saul have done with that show is nothing short of remarkable. And if you haven't watched any of it, season 1 is still phenomenal. I think it only gets better from there. And in the US, 1 through 5 are on Netflix. And season 6 is currently airing. Highly recommend.
I am currently halfway through season 2.
Oh,
and I have been
great.
told that season 3 is when it gets good, because
I loved all of them, but it is similar to a it's not the same plot, but like, you know, dominoes start falling and stuff starts stacking and ropes get tight.
I'm excited. I have not been loving it through 1.5 seasons, but it's certainly, I do love Bob Odenkirk, and there's something in each episode that is great. But I'm surprised at the comparisons to Breaking Bad, because I think Breaking Bad is one of the best shows ever made.
I don't disagree. I would just also put Better Call Saul there.
Great. No, I'm in it to win it. I will be catching up as fast as I can, but haven't gotten to that like shout from the mountaintops yet. Interestingly, my parting gift is also, like Anthony's was, also a Paramount Plus show that I have just started watching. So I don't know if it stays compelling, but it sure is maybe a guilty pleasure watch. It's a show called The Offer, which is about the making of The Godfather. And it's a little overwrought, a little over the top, but it's pretty great. Just for the depiction of Robert Evans alone, which, I'm blanking on the actor's name who does it, but he's awesome. He's in tons of stuff. I'm sorry, sir, I can't remember his name. But I mean, it's if you like movies about movies, if you like movies about Hollywood, it lives up. I mean, in the first episode alone, you get Francis Ford Coppola, Robert Redford, Robert Evans, like all these famous Hollywood larger than life people from the 70s, actors playing them, and it's a little over the top, but I'm enjoying it. So that's The Offer on Paramount Plus. We got a listener suggested parting gift. This comes to us at dlcfeedback@gmail.com from Brian C. Bogus. Brian writes, seeing as several of your episodes recently have had a theme of great YouTube channels, I wanted to throw in another one, Splattercat Gaming. Essentially, it is 20 to 30 minute videos of overviews and first looks at incredible indie games, but done in a way I've never seen before. And the best part is he showcases a new game every day. There's a few things that he does different that I think make this channel stand out. 1, uploads a new video every day, showing off a great indie game. 2, puts several descriptors in the title of his videos so you'll be able to tell if the game is something you'd even be interested in without needing to watch it. For instance, Lumencraft, sandbox-based building bug defense. 3, he puts the game he plays the game first off screen to understand its mechanics and get through the cutscenes and tutorials and into the game proper. That way, you don't have to watch all the boring stuff to get to the main gameplay loop. 4, he then spends the first opening minutes introducing the game, its developers, and going over the UI, then proceeds to play the game as normal. 5, when he starts playing the game, he basically just is explaining what's going on the screen, explaining the game mechanics as they happen, and just general lighthearted commentary in between. 6, this lasts for about 20 to 30 minutes until he reaches a stopping point, and we'll close the video and give you his thoughts about the game in a few short sentences. 7, every game he showcases is a quality game. There's no low-effort asset flip titles. You can clearly tell every game has been made with passion. His channel is literally a treasure trove of great indie games, and this alone would be worth a sub, let alone everything else I've mentioned above. 8, this isn't a review channel. It's just a, hey, see if you like this game channel, which I think is absolutely brilliant. And with him uploading every day, there's so much back content to dig through and so much more new content being piled on, you'll never run out of indie games to check out. There's literally too many games. Well, thanks, Brian. I had not heard of Splatter Cat Gaming, but I do agree it's a great way to showcase games that probably don't get enough spotlight put on them. So check that out if you want to check out some indie games. Very cool. And if you'd like your parting gift read on our show, send it to us. dlcfeedback@gmail.com is where you do that. And of course, we love hearing from you there. And on the Patreon, if you're a patron, we love hearing from you. And we'll be highlighting more of that stuff in the paid DLC show we record now on Wednesdays. So check that out at patreon.com/DLCpod. Speaking of our patrons, the top tier of our patrons, our Hype Train patrons, get their names shouted out at the end of the show. So I think, Christian, if you want to take that away.
Okay. So, you like music, huh? Huh, Jeff? Hey, we need to thank the following folks who really helped make this show possible. Andy Joyce, Anthony Goulas, Dan Flanagan, Hassan, Adam Denby, Scooby Diesel, Jonathan Talbert, Chris Zacharias, Will with one L Harris, Jeff Luxack, Matt Bradley, Victor Valenzuela, Cheesy Bob, Hank Patton, Rob Ricksman, Riley Knox, Kyle Starr, Mitchell Ness, Jimmy Radcliffe, Awesome US Movies, The Switch Bit, Neil Shaw, Scott Hughes, guitar solo, Jenny, Nate, Zachary White, Yick, Albert Verheldi Dios, Jonathan Spiceman, Forever, Schlepp Lefert, Stu Goss, Kevin Brazel, Ben, Lloyd Nance, Dan Palmino, Malcolm King, Mark Gowland, Jonathan Putney, Spiceman Silencer, Soren Silk, Travis, Mike Lombardo, Michael Buck, Jackson, Michael Stadler, drum solo, Slag Watashama Hani, Peter Alberg, Nick Strauss-Klein, Josh Peak, P.S. Wee, Taylor, Wigger, Clifton Satter, Jason Novak, Octavian Ratziu, Christian Bravery, music. I guess this is called music. I'm sorry for this music, but I'm not sorry for saying thank you.
All right. That's it for this episode of DLC. Thanks again to Christian Spicer and Anthony Taormina for hanging out with me. Thanks to our musical contributors, Patrick L., Sean Madigan, and Zero Star for those cool bumpers. Thanks to our intro song, our theme song, created by White Cube, Jason Sherry and T. Ryan Arnold. Thanks, fellas, for making that. And thanks to each and every one of you for downloading the show and listening to us. We appreciate you. We'll be back next week. Until then, think about what you put out into the world. Make it a better place.